Hello, welcome to the channel. This is going to show an install of Ubuntu from the beginning for the complete beginner. It's a lot of this material for the first couple minutes I've already covered in other complete beginner installs, so you can go ahead and fast forward past this, but from the beginning. So first you have to go get an Ubuntu ISO. Don't ask me what ISO stands for. It's a raw data image that is converted into a live / bootable / installer. Ubuntu.com is the official website. You only want to get it from there. I'm going to hit download. Some major choices, but we're going to do the Ubuntu desktop. Okay, it has a few versions and we can go look for them, but basically we're going to do the you could go look for them, I'm not gonna. We're going to do the latest LTS. I only do LTS. And if you're new, I suggest you only do LTS and don't try to upgrade every time it has their interim one. Just stick with LTS if you're brand new. Download, of course. And it's going to try and download it. But as you'll see, I already have it, so I don't need to download it. Okay, the other thing you have to get is a way to put it on a USB. Assuming you're on Windows or Mac, you have 2 that I know of on Mac and 3 ways on Windows that I know of. Rufus, one of the best, only available on Windows. I'm not going to show how to install it because I'd have to do that on a Windows machine. Ventoy, which in my opinion is the best because it allows you to have multiple ISOs on a single drive. However, so here's my Ventoy, and it'll boot, and then you can pick from any of these ISOs to boot into the drive, to boot into the system. So that's my favorite, Ventoy. But again, I don't know how to install it on Windows. You'd have to look that up. If it's straightforward and easy, definitely do it. And then this choice is Molina Etcher. It does an MBR and UEFI on each one, so it can boot either way. This is extremely reliable. You can download it for, I don't want to download it, I already have it downloaded. You can download it for Linux x64, x86, which is 32-bit, Windows as an installer, or this is the one I've always used in the past when I had to use Rufus, is portable. It's basically just an exe you can put on a stick or anywhere to run it. And then I'm not familiar with Etcher for Mac OS, although since Mac OS is a BSD based system, another Unix-like, I assume it'll run exactly the way this one does, as it'll run this way, the way this one runs. So you just download it. I've already downloaded it. Then you launch it, and this is what you get when you launch it. you're gonna pick what you want to do it from. Where am I looking for? Ubuntu. Okay. Ubuntu. Select target. This just has my Ventoy drive. I don't want to wipe out my Ventoy drive and do it, but if I put another USB stick in, I'd be able to select that and flash to it. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but you would just select your drive, flash to it. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes on most machines. First it writes it, then it validates it to make sure it's good. And so you get that ready. Now you put it in your machine and you figure out how your machine can boot from a USB. F12 is the most common. ESC, DEL, F1, F2, F4 are all used on different machines out there. So you need to figure out how your machine will boot from that USB. And then when you do, this is what you'll get. I can get rid of this now, right? This will get what I have to do a full screen so you can see it better, and it'll boot up to this. Now, Ubuntu Safe Graphics, if you're having problems, especially with Nouveau, you may have to use that one. OEM install, where it says for manufacturers, you can do that if you're setting it up to give it to someone, and the first time they boot, it'll ask for their username, ID, password, set up their own password, etc., and so they can set the machine up themselves. I'm going to use the first one. And here we have Ubuntu booted up. Pick your language. You can install Ubuntu and go straight into the installer. I prefer to always try Ubuntu first. And you want to do this to make sure everything is working fine on your machine and looks good. The language is set. There's some kind of internet connection. Internet connection is a good thing to have when installing any OS. It's required on Windows, I believe, and it's good to do it on Linux as well. Some, not all, some updates will be installed during the installation process, as long as you have this set up and ready to go. You have that. So you also want to make sure your graphics is working good. You might want to test your sound, and just in general, make sure it's looking and working the way you want. And of course, you can jump around, take a look at it, see if it's something you like the feel of before you install it. Can you run it like this and not install it? Sure. You could add persistence to it. I don't recommend that. It's always going to boot to the root, which means it's not secure. It's not getting the latest kernel updates or security patches. There are just a lot of reasons to not use persistence. Instead, just install it. If you can install it to your drive, install it to a USB stick. So I'm going to go ahead and click on install. You pick your language. You pick your keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and go with a normal installation, but if you want to strip down one, you can do minimal and then add the programs yourself for those that, but you're still going to get a lot of bloatware. This is Ubuntu and it uses snaps, so you can trim it as much as you can by having a minimal installation, but it's still going to be heavier than most. Okay, you always want to install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. You may not need them, but they don't take up a lot of room on your hard drive for storage, and they don't affect, unlike Windows, because there's no registry, it doesn't affect how it's how it runs. Okay, so now we're going to continue. In this case, we're going to do something else. Now, I should have done something first, so I'm going to go ahead and quit this and set up my drive with Gpard first before I install. Now, let's pretend that this is a section of your drive that you freed up from Windows. If it's a new drive, like this one, you'll need to create a partition table. I suggest GPT, regardless of whether you're going to put this on a legacy or UEFI machine. Unlike Windows, Unix can use GPT in legacy mode. Alright, so let's pretend this is just a section you freed up. I should have made it a little bigger. I don't know if it's going to work. I may have to start this whole video over. So the first thing you want is a small EFI. If this is dual boot on Windows, 100 is enough, which is what Windows use. I use 150 just so I know which one is which. Just so I know, oh, that's my Linux EFI and the 100 is my Windows EFI. We're going to do that as a FAT32. We're going to add that. And we're going to add a Linux swap. It's not necessary. You can use something else. With Ubuntu, you can use swap file instead. But I'm going to make a small Linux swap. Swap is more than just RAM overflow. It's also using for efficient paging by Linux. So it's good to have something. Even if I have an 8 gig machine here, which is more than enough for Ubuntu. Well, maybe not more than enough, depending on what you're going to run. But it's plenty for Ubuntu. And so I'm just going to use a gigabyte. If the typical is to say up to 8 gigabytes, match the RAM that's in your machine. And by matching the RAM that's in your machine, you'll be able to hibernate. Not that I recommend hibernation, but it'll give you that option. So we're going to add that. Now we're going to add 2 ext partitions, one for the root and one for home. Let's see how little it'll let me get away with doing it. Let's try 20 gigabyte. Yeah, now typically, of course, your home is going to be the much larger partition, but since I'm not putting anything on it, just showing how to install it, it can be this size. But typically, you'll have a bigger drive. If you have a bigger drive or bigger, you don't want to go any smaller than 20. This is going to be close. But 32 gigabytes is what I recommend for what's going to be used for your file system, and then as big as you want for your home system. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and apply that. Okay, and now we're ready to go. Or are we? No, we're not ready to go. We're not ready to go because FAT32, this FAT32 has to have some flags set. If this was a UEFI system, I would click on ESP or click on ESP or boot, and the other one is checked as well. And now this is ready to boot in a UEFI system. This VM I'm using is a BIOS, so instead I'm going to use BIOS grub, and that's the only difference on Linux between whether the GUID/GPT drive is UEFI or legacy, and that is what flags are set in the what am I going to call it? Not the EFI, the bootloader drive, the bootloader partition. Okay, so that's good. No need to apply or save. You just when you change the flags. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to restart the installer. And I deliberately left it like that with my mistake of not doing that first to show you that, oh, you can go back and do it. Okay. Those stayed clicked for me. Alright, I'm going to do something else. If this had Windows on another drive, there'd be an alongside choice in addition to these two. I don't like alongside. I don't like the way it does those partitions. I'm never quite 100% confident it's going to do what I want it to do by using alongside. So I use and I recommend something else, because then you're in charge, you're in control. So there's a BIOS grove, there's a swap, there's nothing we're going to need to do about this. This one, we're going to right click, change. We're going to use this as the ext4 partition. We're going to format it, and we're going to mount it as /, which includes the entire file system. So it includes boot and temp and user and var. All these others are inside, and home until we strip it out, are inside /. So if you want a single partition, /. If you want file system partition and home / and the next drive, we're going to change this. We're going to also make this an ext4 file system. We're going to format the partition if this is new. If this is a upgrade and you don't want to lose your /home, you want to keep it, then just leave the format box unchecked. That's the only difference. That's how you save your /home from one install or reinstall Ubuntu if it messes up. And we're going to say okay. Quiet. Too much noise in my background, sorry. So now we're going to do an install now. I don't know why Ubuntu does this, even though this is not going to be an EFI boot. So I'm just going to ignore this. Okay. I forgot to mention this. You want to make sure that your installer is on the drive without a number. Okay? And the correct drive, that it's the one on your machine that you want to boot from. Install now. Again, it's going to give me this foolish error message. And so it shows how it's going to set those up. Continue. Okay. Pick your time zone. Set up your user ID. Again, if you pick the OEM, it would skip this part. Okay, you notice that there was already progress being made, and that's because it starts doing it in the background while you're putting in that user ID. Doesn't need the user ID until almost at the end, so it starts doing it. Okay, I'm going to pause this. If you notice the time before I hit pause, it's been about 3 minutes. How long it takes to install is dependent upon how much RAM, HDD or SSD, how big a CPU, how fast a CPU you have, etc. But on this machine it takes about 4 minutes. Restart now. Okay, pull your USB stick and hit enter. Okay, now it's going to reboot. Let's go back to a full screen. Okay, you can set these up or skip them. I prefer not being spied on. That's up to you. I'm going to leave my location services off. That's up to you. You can add programs. That's up to you. Now I'm going to go into the application grid, whatever they call it. I'm going to look for Update Manager. First thing you want to do every time is update. I guess I can pause here. It's only going to take another minute. Okay, so it comes up to this part, mostly because it updated kernels on this very first one and did some other things. I'm going to restart now because you know how quick this works. And there we have it. Ubuntu is installed. Okay, that's it.